What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Super excited. I've got who I feel is by far the best Miami Dolphins content creator on the YouTube platform. Was on Doug's channel a couple of days ago, and I wanted to have him on my channel. We get to learn a little bit about his football team, being that we're going up against the Miami Dolphins this week. And there's a lot of really interesting storylines in this game, I think. But, Doug, what's going on, man? Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. It's been a minute since I've been on the channel, but it's always a blast coming on.
Definitely got to do some off-season stuff as well. Maybe we do some mock drafts together this year.
Definitely.
Looking forward to it, man. But yeah, man, let's dive into it. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about this game from my perspective. Kind of want to get your team's perspective. Big game for both teams. Giants coming in at 4-7. You guys coming in at 5-7. Both fan bases kind of have like at least a glimmer of hope in terms of going on a run and hoping to make the playoffs. You guys coming in as hot as ever. You've won 4 straight, which is actually, I was thinking about this earlier today. It's kind of funny because the Giants started 1-7 last year also, and then they won 4 straight. And then the rest of the season didn't play out so well. But looking at your schedule, it looks like you guys at least have a decent chance to go on a run. But yeah, I want to get to know about your football team. And I want to start with the quarterback. Last year, you guys drafted Tua Tagovailoa. I think it was 6th overall after the Chargers selected Herbert, if I'm not mistaken. And he kind of got off to a rocky start. As a fan from the outside looking in who doesn't watch the Dolphins obviously as closely as you do, I didn't really love the way that Flores handled that situation. Benching Tua, kind after bringing him in and benching him later in the season for Fitzpatrick when you guys were kind of in playoff contention. And then this year, obviously, he had a bit of an injury, but Tua's starting to put it together. I think I read a stat over the last month. He's got like over an 80% completion percentage, which is like the highest total since like Peyton Manning. It was something ridiculous over a month. So he's obviously been playing better. I've heard some things about Tua that some people say they want them to open up the offense a little bit, but I really want to get your take on Tua, how he's progressed as a quarterback, things he needs to work on, and us as Giants fans. If you were a member of the opposing defense, how would you go about defending him?
Yeah, Tua's he's like really taken over this fan base. There's people that love him, people that hate him, especially with Deshaun Watson becoming available. So many people are like, they don't want to wait for the growth because there is growth, like you said, from last year to now. There's huge growth. The whole situation with Tua last year is interesting because had a huge hip injury, didn't really have an off season, not only because of COVID, but because of him rehabbing the entire off season. They bring in Chan Gailey, who's more for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, people got to remember, they brought in Chan Gailey way before they decided to draft Tua. That was for Fitzpatrick. So all of a sudden, the bye week moves because of a lot of people getting COVID, games changing, and I think their initial thought process was we're going to have Tua start after the bye, which was like 4 or 5 weeks after their moved by, and they started him against the Rams, which it's like all the teams you want to start Tua against. And the funny thing is, like, his first snap, he got destroyed, he got sacked, but he still did his thing, but he struggled. He's a rookie, limited knowledge of the playbook, and he struggled. This year, completely different. He has more control of the playbook, more control of the offense. He yells at receivers where to be. He's grabbing receivers, trying to pull them out of getting into fights. He's becoming more and more of that leader in the quarterback. The downfalls and the things you're probably hearing is he doesn't push the ball down the field. I think, against the Jets, he had that nice, long touchdown pass, 53 yards in the air. I think it was like a 70-yard touchdown altogether. He's made nice throws down the field. It's not that he can't do it, because you hear that too. Oh, Tua's got a noodle arm. He can't throw the ball down the field. That's why he doesn't do it. When you hear that, just ignore it, because that's not the case. The offensive line is so bad that Tua gets about 2 seconds to throw the ball. For plays to develop down the field, especially if you want your receivers to get open, you have exotic routes, either posts, corners, stop and goes, all these type of routes. You need to have time for it to develop. And Tua, after the first, however many weeks, and you even watched Jacoby Brissett, who struggled in his 4 weeks of starting, the offensive line does not give the quarterback or the receivers enough time for the plays to develop. So it became a process of running the RPO where we're going to have movement, we're going to have play actions, we're going to have decision making on the quarterback to confuse the opposing defense to get guys open. And that's kind of where we're at now. Is if the guy's open deep, he'll probably try to take that shot, but more likely than not, he's going to throw it underneath and let guys like Waddle, which we'll eventually get to, do his thing and break it open. But yeah, as of right now, the offensive line struggles is kind of limiting what the offense can do.
Yeah, and I really want to talk about Waddle. The other thing that I've heard a lot about too, as well, is you guys have implemented the read option a lot as well, and that's been working. But your offensive line, like you said, has been struggling. It doesn't seem like you guys have much of a ground game.
Mhm.
Now the Giants' defensive approach this year, for the most part, like I said when I was on your channel, has been like a bend but don't break approach. We've played almost exclusively zone.
Mhm.
We don't blitz very often. We blitz about, I think, 23% of the time, as opposed to you guys who blitz almost 39% of the time. You guys are second in the NFL in that department, and we're going to get to the defensive side. But the fact that you guys can't run, part of me as a Giants fan thinks the best way to combat you guys is not necessarily to go about the way the Giants have been going about it the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. If I'm the Giants, based off your offensive approach, and of course we could get burnt by doing this, I'm going to play a little bit more man press, and I'm going to try to send some pressure off of Tua, because the fact that it just seems like that you guys have short passing concepts, get the ball out quick. If you could try to disrupt the timing of those patterns underneath to guys like Gesicki, to guys like Gaskins coming out of the backfield, and of course Jalen Waddle, I would think that would be the best defensive approach for the Giants.
Yeah, 100%. If you play zone against this offense, you're going to get torn up. Because if you're not going to send pressure at Tua and you give him the time for these plays to develop, like last week, there was a huge play where Tua, if it wasn't for Philip Lindsay, who came on and helped on the blind side with a block that got completely blown up by Liam Eichenberg, it would have been a sack. But because Tua had that time, he took a step up in the pocket. Jalen Waddle was allowed to run his crossing route and get in between the zones. Tua dropped the ball off to him, and then Waddle just took the rest of the way, all the way down to about the 12-yard line. So if you're going to play zone against this offense, it's going to be bad, especially if you're not going to play like some type of zone blitz system where you're going to pressure Tua and make him make quicker decisions. You're going to get torn up. So your thought process on playing that press, man coverage and throwing some blitzes in there is what you need to do, especially if you're going to jam these guys at the line of scrimmage. It's going to really help you guys on the defensive side of the ball. And again, if you're going to play zone, you might see a little bit more runs. Unfortunately, it looks like Philip Lindsay might not be going for this game, which sucks because he kind of had a big game, his first debut for us last week. But you still got, Ahmed and Gaskin to hopefully have a 1-2 punch back there.
Yeah, and that's going to transition me to Waddle, which is the guy that I worry most about in your offense in terms of a weapon. I loved Jalen Waddle coming out of the draft. I actually had him number one above Jamar Chase at the wide receiver position. Chase looks incredible, but Waddle's no one to sneeze at. And I thought it was a great pickup by you guys when you guys got him. He's very, he's very versatile. You can play him on the inside, you can play him on the out. He's a vertical threat. I think the only question with him coming out was the injuries at Alabama, but I think he's an all-around dynamic wide receiver from what I saw on the tape, and was definitely a guy I did a lot of research on because I thought potentially the Giants could end up drafting him. But he's obviously the guy in your offense that by far scares me the most. Now, for the Giants, unfortunately, we're going to be missing Adoree Jackson, who is probably our most – no, not probably, definitely the guy that we would have going up against him. When we played the Chiefs, he guarded Tyreek Hill, even though Bradbury's probably the quote-unquote number one corner. Jackson's a good corner and a guy that possesses more speed. So that's what another matchup that I definitely worry about in this game. And I kind of want to talk about Waddle and how he's progressed as a wide receiver and how you guys have kind of utilized him. I mean, just looking at the stats, he gets a ton of targets. He's got 77 catches, just under 750 yards, but only 9.9 yards per catch. And that obviously probably goes back to the fact that Tua has not been stretching the field, and also goes back to your offensive line not giving him a lot of time. But, let me know about Waddle and what do you think is the best course of action going up against him?
It seems like a lot of the rookies that we took this past season, they kind of started slow. Waddle, Phillips, and Holland. They kind of started slow. It took them a minute. And as soon as they got caught up to the speed of game and the style of offense and defense that the Dolphins were running and they got more comfortable, they started to play like they did in college. And Waddle is a prime example of that. Because at first, he was a little clunky. He dropped a few passes. He was more focused on running the routes than actually being the Waddle that he was in college. And you're seeing it now. That deep pass I was talking about, where Tua dropped it on a crossing route about 15 yards. He took it the rest for another 50. If you watch the play, he actually sticks behind the wide receiver. They kind of motion him into a bunch set, and he sticks behind Preston Williams. So he kind of like has a little bit of a blocker in front of him. So the corner doesn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden he breaks out on his crossing route. So he like is starting to get into his groove of things. But yeah, with the offensive line struggles and not being able to have things develop deep, it's hard. He'll run deep routes, but it's just like by the time Tua sees it, it's like either Jesse Davis or Liam Eichenberg already got beat. So he's like, I got to throw it to the check down. So a lot of times he's running the crossing routes, especially in the RPOs. It'll be an out route and a crossing route, and he'll be the crossing route, and like Gesicki or Albert Wilson will be the out, and Tua has a decision who to throw. And Tua is really good at looking at one of them and throwing it to the other. It's like the thing that he does the best, where he'll pull the ball in and he'll be looking at Albert Wilson, but he'll throw it to Waddle. So the defender will jump the one route, and then all of a sudden or vice versa, he'll be looking at Waddle, and he's very good at the no look passes, especially in that RPO. So, but Waddle's dangerous. You get that man open field and you run zone against Waddle, he's dangerous. And it's funny because everyone was so I remember during the combine and all that stuff, always limping. How's the ankle? Is the ankle fine? Is the ankle fine? Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Preston Williams, all of our receivers are injured except for Waddle. Like
Will Fuller, I could have told you was going to get it.
Oh my God, it's a nightmare. $10 million. He has a broken finger, and for 2 months, and he's been sitting on the sideline with a broken finger. It's a nightmare.
He's a great player, but he's always hurt.
But Waddle during the preseason takes a huge hit down on the ground for like 10 minutes. All of us are holding our breaths. He comes in 2 plays later. He's like, "No, I'm fine." And he did it like 2 or 3 times this season where he's like, "Oh," and then 5 minutes later, he catches like a 15-yard run. You're just like, who is this kid? So yeah, he's up there. It was him, Devontae Smith, or Jamar Chase, and I'm glad we got Waddle. People wanted Penei Sewell there at 6. Like, oh, Penei Sewell, why are you going with Waddle? I think Waddle's gonna, he's gonna have a great season.
You couldn't go wrong with either one.
Exactly.
Like Sewell definitely would have made sense, but Waddle's definitely an explosive wide receiver and definitely a guy I worry about. And then the other two guys, because the Giants really do struggle against tight ends. I worry about Gesicki. And I know you guys kind of use him. He's kind of like Evan Ingram for us, for you guys. Not that, even though Evan Ingram can't hold on to the football in crucial spots, but Gesicki's he's kind of like he's basically your second option in the passing game. So those are the other two options that I worry about as well. And yeah, we'll see how we stack up against you guys, but certainly respect your offense. And it seems like you guys are starting to turn the corner. Now, the side of the ball that concerns me a lot more, because I'm not really shaking in my boots about your offense. I'm shaking in my boots a little bit about Waddle, but I think our defense could definitely hang tight against you guys. We've played, I think, at least equally, if not stronger offenses in the past and hung pretty tough. So I'm not expecting you guys to blow our door off, but where it really worries me is your defense. Your defense, and I really want to know, because I'm looking over the stats right now. I really want to know what has brought about this resurgence. And part of me, as I'm watching it, looking at your box scores, maybe some of it has to do with the weaker competition. You played Houston, you played the Jets, Carolina. We kind of beat up on as well. But I went back and watched some of that Baltimore Ravens game, and the job that your defense did against Lamar Jackson. You made him completely one-dimensional. I mean, you took away their run game. I mean, you look at your defense right now, you've given up no more than 102 yards on the ground since week 5. And the Giants can't run to save their lives. So that's obviously something I worry about a ton. Like I said earlier, you guys have been blitzing a ridiculous amount, almost 39% of the time, and you've been getting pressure on the quarterback, Jalen Phillips, Emmanuel Ogbah. Tell me about your defense. And obviously, you got a strong secondary as well.
Yeah, it drives me nuts as a Dolphin fan because, we went on that 7-game skid, and there was a few games in that 7-game loss that if the defense was playing like they have since actually the Buffalo game, since week 8, because the Dolphins held the Buffalo Bills to 3 points for 2.5 quarters,
Wow.
they would have beat the Falcons, they would have beat the Jaguars, and they would have beat the Raiders, and the Dolphins would be the number 1 team in the AFC East right now if it wasn't for the defense. And me and a lot of Dolphin fans were asking, like, what the heck is going on? Why all of a sudden? And after the Bills game, and especially after the Texans game, Xavier Howard came out and said, "Oh, we started calling plays like 2020 defense," which made me even more infuriating because why did it take you a 7-game losing streak to all of a sudden realize, oh, the play calling that we're trying to install in 2021 on defense is not working? Let's go back to 2020. And now all of a sudden you see the dominant defense where we're holding all these teams to, under 20 points a game. And like you said, the Baltimore Ravens making them one-dimensional. Even like I said, the Buffalo Bills, 3 points in 2.5 quarters. It drives me nuts. But a lot of what the Dolphins defense is doing is going back to that play style. Jerome Baker, he came out yesterday and said they came up to me and asked me what would I be more comfortable doing on this defense, because they were trying to force him into that Mike linebacker situation. He's not a Mike linebacker. That's not why he got the contract extension. That's not what made him what he is. So they moved him back to where he was stronger. So the resurgence is because all of a sudden, after losing 7 straight games or 6 straight games, the Dolphins were like, well, we need to fix this defense because, Tua drops 4 touchdowns against the Atlanta Falcons. He gives us the lead 28-27, with 2 minutes left. You need 1 stop. You let the Falcons, get 60 yards in 2 plays. It's like something needed to change. And now all of a sudden we're sitting there, but it's a super aggressive defense because of the secondary that the Dolphins have in Javon Holland, even Brandon Jones, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, and Nick Needham. That secondary alone is the reason why the front can be as aggressive as they can, and why they send that zero blitz where they're leaving their corners on an island.
I saw that. I was watching some highlights from your game the past week, and you literally have like 8 guys just like right up at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Like you're right there. Like you guys are ultra aggressive, and with a quarterback like Mike Glennon, who he's got 2 left feet. Like obviously I think the way the Giants are going to try to combat it, they're going to play a lot of 2 tight end sets, max protection, and I have to think they're going to try screen passes to try to combat your aggressiveness. But yeah, man, your defense is scaring the hell out of me the way they've played the last 4 or 5 weeks. And like I said, I like you said, rather, I think the strength starts with your secondary.
Yeah. And you saw what the Jets did, right? Jets bring in Joe Flacco, and they started him against the Dolphins. They didn't rush Wilson back, and they didn't put Mike White out there because they saw what the Dolphins did against the Ravens. And they were like, we need a veteran back there, because if we got a rookie or an unexperienced quarterback and they see this coming at them, they're not going to know to check down. And it actually benefited the Jets because they got a big touchdown run off of, Byron Jones trying to smack the ball down on a single coverage. But yeah, it would help if your quarterback was a little bit more savvy and knew what to do. So we'll see if that zero blitz, because sometimes they set up for the zero blitz and then they drop back. They only send 4. Yeah. And then you have, there's a stunt that they do that I love where they have Ogba on the outside and they have Jalen Phillips set up as the defensive tackle in like a 4-3 set. And then they have Ogba come around Phillips, and it just messes with the offensive line. He goes right up the gut for the sack. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really
the Giants offensive line couldn't block you and me. And now I got to worry about this exotic defense and all these different blitzes you're going to be throwing away. You're scaring the hell out of me. But yeah, I definitely think, the more I've looked into it, I definitely think your defense is going to be a big concern for the New York Giants coming into this game. What is the Achilles heel? Like if there is a weakness to your defense, say you're an offensive coordinator, how would you attack this defense?
Motions. I've noticed that. And I don't know if they fixed it, but I noticed when I was breaking down film for the 7-game losing streak, it was motions. You take your receiver, and the Bucs did it to us, and it just big plays. They would motion them and then continue to motion them and then snap the ball. And our guys would like try to follow the motion and then get stuck on each other and then just leave a guy wide open. Motions really mess with this defense. And our linebackers aren't that great. I'm going to
I
be
was about
honest
to
with
ask you
you.
about that because I've
Yeah,
heard that. Yeah.
they're not that great. It's going to be a big need in the offseason, along with offensive line. Linebackers aren't great. Jerome Baker, very good at blitzing, getting after quarterback, not great in coverage. Same thing with Landon Roberts. Same thing with, all of our guys back there. They're not great linebackers. So if you're going to attack them, you need Ingram to actually catch the ball, and that might actually help you guys.
I was also thinking Barkley possibly in the passing
Yeah.
game. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I think we got to try to attack the middle of the field. I think it's got to be short, quick passes,
Mhm.
get the ball out quick, create quick separation, and try to take advantage of the aggressive nature of your defense. But the thing that when I saw this game on the schedule, the one thing that popped out to me that I was like, wow, that's such a cool storyline is just the familiarity between the coaching staffs.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see, because these guys know each other very well. And maybe a lot of fans aren't taking that into account, but these guys have worked together forever. Giants have a lot of members, as you know, you came on my channel. We have a lot of former members from your coaching staff on the New York Giants staff. Patrick Graham has done a much better job since leaving you guys for the Giants. And that's what I'm really looking forward to more so than anything else in this game is to see how these guys take advantage of what they know about one another.
Do you guys still have Mike Thomas on your team?
Mike Thomas.
The safety?
No, oh no. I was thinking of the coaching staff. No, the two guys the two guys we have from your coaching staff are Graham and
Yeah.
Shaplinsky. Graham and Shaplinsky.
Yeah, because
But
Graham, I remember that move. I was surprised that it was like a vertical move, but not because you also made him like an assistant head coach. So it's like he got a little bit of a raise going to you guys, but yeah, I was surprised.
you guys had an issue with him, right? Didn't
Brian Flores
didn't
has an issue with
Flores took
all
away
of
the
his
play calling
coaches.
for him. Yeah, so you guys had an issue with him while he was there.
Yeah, that's the biggest knock on Brian Flores, right? Like he's a good head coach, and even when he hits versatility, or adversity, like the 7-game losing streak, he tends to bounce back. He tends to fix it, but it's like with his assistants, he has not been able to keep an offensive coordinator since he took over. Same thing with defensive coordinator. It's just like he has a hard time building a coaching staff, and that's his biggest knock. If he can just get a good, offensive coaching staff and bring in an offensive coordinator like Changali that has like veteran leadership, his team's gonna be dangerous. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if he doesn't like people talking back to him or what, because I noticed he got rid of players like Kyle Van Noy and Bobby McCain and Eric Flowers, who are veterans who, Kyle Van Noy talks back to him. Oh, no Eric Flowers.
No Eric Flowers on this channel. I can't say that.
But that's his biggest downfall is I think he doesn't like being talked back to. So it's that Belichick mentality, on the boss. So
Yeah. And that's the other cool thing is we both have Belichick disciples.
Mhm.
And a lot of Giants fans are still questioning about whether or not Joe Judge is the long-term answer because obviously the Giants have dealt with a lot of adversity. Similar to you this year, rather we started 1-7, kind of bounced back, finished 6-10. And then this year, we're 4-7. So, people are starting to question whether or not Joe Judge is going to be the long-term answer. What do the Dolphins feel about Flores? Obviously, coming into this year, obviously it started off great, right? You won 5 games the first year. Everybody thought you were going to win like 1. And then you win 10 games last year when you spend some money. You bring in Byron Jones, like you said. But this year, a little bit underwhelming. So, and now you're starting to get it in gear. But what does the fan base feel about Flores right now long-term?
After the Jaguars game, I was like, he's gonna get fired. Like, I honestly thought you lose to the Jaguars, you lose to the Falcons, he's gonna get fired. Like, there's no way he can make it to the end of the season. Then they win 4 straight, and there's a possibility. It's very slim, but there's a possibility of making the playoffs. It's gonna save his job. But I think regardless, I didn't think anyone's gonna get fired in the head coach GM area. But I said after the Jaguars game that somebody needs to get fired, and I'm hoping it's the whole offensive side of the ball. Because we have 2 offensive coordinators, and our offense is garbage. So it's like you have 2 of them, but neither one of them's doing them. Charlie Fry is the quarterback coach, and then the offensive line coach is a first-year offensive line coach. That whole offensive side of coaching needs to be redone, and he needs to bring in some veteran leadership on that side of the ball. So I don't think he's going anywhere, and I don't think Greer's going anywhere because Greer did this past draft. Greer did pretty well. So if anyone's going to get fired of the 2, it'd be Flores, but it's not going to happen this next year. We'll see what happens next year.
I think a lot of it's going to come down to Tua.
Yeah.
And his progression as a quarterback. And I'm looking forward to the game, Doug, man. I just want to, I know your prediction already. I know you got the Dolphins, but give me the final score. Who do you got in this game? And yeah, tell me how you think it's going to break down.
I don't think it's gonna be a blowout. Some people might think, you got Mike Glennon in there and you guys' offense is struggling, Dolphins defense is doing well, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout. I think you guys are gonna score a few points, and I think I think the Dolphins will win. I'm hoping and praying they'll win. I'd like to keep the trajectory we're going on. I have the Dolphins winning 24-17. I have you guys scoring 17 points. I don't think it's going to be, like I said, a blowout. I don't think we're going to shut you guys out. Saquon Barkley still scares me, regardless if you guys struggle at running the ball. So I do think Dolphins will win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I got you guys by 3, but I think between 3 and 7 points is probably where I would have it. And if the Giants are going to win, we're going to need your offense that you said is not that good to make a few more mistakes than they've made over the last couple weeks, because you guys have only turned it over 2 times over the last 3 games. That's the key to me as a Giants fan from the outside looking in. I mean, you look last week, we created 4 turnovers against the Eagles. We're going to have to do something similar against 2 and kind of confuse him. I'm sure you guys will try to establish the run. Our run defense has been bad. The good news for the Giants, your run offense hasn't been that good either. So we'll see if we can stuff your run and force Tua to make some mistakes. But looking forward to the game, Doug, man. Obviously, you guys can find him over on DouglieDoWrong. If you guys have not checked out his channel yet, I'm going to put the link in the description. I got the hiccups. But, Doug, thank you so much for coming on, man. And, yeah, let me give me the last word, buddy.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Love coming on here. And let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets is right. Let's win some games this year. I'm looking forward to the Mets season. The Mets season. But if you guys like the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell. Going over to DouglieDoWrong, and when the Giants kick their ass, rag on them.
I want to hear it.
All right, guys, be good.